The new restrictions are again leading to further criticism of Governor Whitmer from state Republicans.
And it's again so bad that earlier in the week, some Republicans were floating the idea of impeaching the governor. Political reporter Rick Albin learned today that that's not on the agenda in Lansing. He joins us now. Rick.
You know, Brian, impeachment here in the state works pretty much like it does at the federal level. There would be a case made over in the House of Representatives. Simple majority vote would move the case over to the Senate. There, it would take a 2/3 majority. That's how it would work, except it's not going to. Republican Speaker of the House Lee Chatfield and I talked today, and we talked about why those proceedings will not be taking place on his watch. Some of your colleagues in the House have suggested that this would be the time to start talking about impeachment procedures. And while we know that's never been done in the state of Michigan, is that anything that's going to receive serious consideration?
You know, Rick, it's no secret, right, that I've disagreed a lot with this governor. I have debated a lot with this governor. I've even taken this governor to court and sued the administration and won. So I have many differences with how the governor has handled COVID. But we have a time and place with how we deal with differences. And primarily, Rick, that's done at the ballot box. The voters of the state of Michigan are going to have a chance in 2022 to choose a new governor if they choose. They also have a choice, if they want to do it before that, to do a recall petition. You know, Republicans, Rick, are not the party that impeach someone simply because we disagree with them, or we impeach someone just to make the base happy. We just saw that in Washington, and I think what the Democrats did to President Trump was awful. I thought it was shameful, and I thought it made a mockery of our institution. And we're not going to do that here in the state of Michigan. Right now, with the set of facts that we have, the impeachment resolution that was introduced is not going to get a vote on the House floor with the current set of facts that we have, because I don't think it's the right way to deal with this situation or with this disagreement.
Now, in January, there'll be a new Speaker of the House. I'll be talking with him tomorrow. But even if there were some idea of impeachment, it would face another, I think, likely insurmountable obstacle, and that is this. Right now, there are 22 Republicans, 16 Democrats in the Senate. It takes 25 votes to impeach. Even if the process was to move out of the House, and clearly right now it isn't going to, getting the votes in the Senate would be nearly impossible. Brian, Sue.
Yeah.